What did you do? I kept. Can we double check with the
The other side? Okay, cool. Thank you. I'm like, that'd be pretty fancy. They'd be like, yo, who put it upside down? Hey.
One of the people who doesn't read it.
Yeah. I'm like, you're going to have to take community accountability. Okay. You're just rolling the thing?
I'm stepping away.
Oh, gosh, wow, gosh, she's doing hot potato with this accountability, huh? She said, Michael. What was your name, brother?
Sammy.
Sammy?
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. CJ.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Sammy was laughing at us like, silly.
No, I get it. Looks a little more.
I just, you know, I'm just not familiar, you know? I'm just, you know. I should have brushed that. I should have brushed that.
I'm like fluent in the language and I still sometimes have trouble.
Oh, yeah?
But not to, like I can, it's too like advanced. So there's like advanced writing and there's, they're really beautiful.
I know, I'm like,
This one's, yeah, this one. They should apply.
we can find out. Hello. We'll find out. And then the YouTube can show us.
They had no number. I haven't seen it. I'm sure you. You've done this a little bit of.
YouTube did.
Oh, okay.
So I kind of have a visual idea.
Sure.
But my memory is
You gotta test it.
Put our faith in whatever that is. Let's do
Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming out tonight. We're so happy to have you all here. This is an event that's been organized by Anab Mohammed right here, and she's brought a team with her who've been planning for a couple of months for this event. She's got a whole program planned for you. I'm with the Monterey Peace and Justice Center. We're based in Seaside, and you can find out more about us and get on our weekly peace calendar. It's got a listing of events at the Peace Center and all over the county, including tonight's events like this. So please sign up. And I'm going to turn the program over to Anab. She's got a program in store for you, music, art, and stories about what's happening in Sudan. And let's please give her a warm welcome.
My name is Anab Mohammed. I am a member of the ever-growing Sudanese community here in Monterey. I want to welcome you all this evening for a community solidarity event focused on celebrating Sudanese culture and resilience in the midst of this war. We're going to start with our speaker here tonight, Mr. Jonathan Hudson, and he has a very wonderful and impressive biography. Jonathan Hudson earned his law degree from New York University School of Law and a master's in French literature from Michigan State University. He brings 20 years of experience managing strategic communications for high-profile organizations and causes, such as the Public Justice, Physicians for Human Rights, Public Justice, the Enough Project, and he served as the architect of George Clooney's Satellite Sentinel Project, or SSP, the world's first early warning system for human rights and human security in Sudan and South Sudan. In August and September of 2021, Jonathan visited 4 refugee camps in eastern Sudan, where he interviewed people from 5 ethnic groups who had fled the ongoing genocide in Tigray. Based on his field research, corroborated by photos, videos, and satellite imagery, he broke the news in a piece for Salon.com that Ethiopia had created concentration camps in western Tigray and had tortured, starved, and abused children of all ages in these camps. Let's give it up for Mr. Jonathan Hudson.
Thank you for your kind introduction. By the way, I invited my translator from Eastern Sudan to listen in on the Zoom call. His name is Kibron, and I believe he's listening in now. And he has since fled Sudan and is somewhere in Egypt at the moment. And I remember when we went just a few years ago into from Khartoum, we went to Gadara, and there visited several different locations across eastern Sudan, visiting different refugee camps. I remember at the end of our trip, I was in a hotel sharing a hookah with a Sudanese friend in the courtyard of one of the 5-star hotels in Khartoum. And he was asking me, do you believe that there will be a further conflict in Sudan? I said, yes, absolutely. I think they are rehearsing to overthrow the state. And he said, oh, I thought the battle days were behind us. And I said, you know, sadly, no. I think it's coming very soon. And then I flew out of Khartoum just a few days later, and within 2 weeks, the war broke out between the Sudan Armed Forces and the RSF. And because I had a number of friends and colleagues and contacts on the ground in Khartoum and other places in all regions of Sudan, I was sometimes able to report on things before they were making the international news, either in Arabic or English language or French or German or whatever. Reliable sources on the ground in Sudan were reporting what they were seeing and hearing and observing, and their stories were corroborating each other and were further corroborated by satellite imagery provided by the American company Maxar, and with analysis from colleagues who are now with the Yale Humanitarian Project in Yale University in Connecticut, and also some colleagues who were working from London for a nonprofit based there. So, you know, with horror, but not with surprise, you know, I've continued to observe what was going on as the country, you know, has become increasingly unglued. Because I had recently visited Sudan, the State Department invited me for a few sort of quiet, off-the-record consultations with other non-governmental organizations and Sudan observers, most of them Sudanese, a few other Westerners like myself. And I do remember that at one point somebody from the State Department asked, and this was, you know, just as things were quite clubbing unglued, which side should the US back, the Army or the RSF? And I said, neither. Neither one is worthy to govern Sudan. And I said, frankly, the US government has demonstrated a failure of imagination. There's a third way, and you should be listening to the civil society leaders. You should be listening to the students and the trade unions and the doctors and the medical professors, the doctors and nurses. You should be listening to, you know, the people who are on the ground in the resistance committees who have organized neighborhoods block by block, and they know best what is happening on the ground, and they have demonstrated the capacity to gather information, analyze quickly, adapt, persevere, overcome obstacles, organize. I said if you look at, you know, the things that were happening just before the Civil War really broke out, it was apparent that the civil society was actually very close to securing a peaceful transition of power in Sudan. But I told colleagues just before the Civil War, I said, things in Sudan rest on the edge of a knife, and they could go either way. I could imagine a future where there would be a peaceful transfer of power, but that would have required General Burhan to step aside and fulfill his commitment to get out of the way and let a full, free, and fair election happen, which he selfishly chose not to do. But I said, you know, that there are problems with the Muslim Brotherhood and the theocrats having infiltrated the Sudan armed forces, but that doesn't mean that the RSF is a viable option, because they are even worse. They are really akin to a terrorist group, and they should be declared a terrorist group. This was known years ago, and it was rather stunning and disappointing to me that only within the past month did the Biden administration finally declare that the RSF is a terrorist group. But they were known genocidaires. You know, we're talking about people who were the architects of genocide in Darfur, in the Nuba Mountains. So, you know, they had blood on their hands for a long time. On the other hand, I'd like to leave you with a message of hope and resilience. Why is it that I was saying just on the eve of the Civil War that Sudan, I could imagine a future where Sudan could have a peaceful transition and could be a strong democracy? It was because what I observed firsthand is that Sudan has many natural resources, and I believe that the resources that Western governments and China and Russia covet are the resources of gold and uranium and the land and the position on the sea where they could have strategic military positioning and have strong mineral resources. Those are the sorts of resources that the colonizers see when they think of Sudan. When I think of Sudan, I think of a different kind of natural resource. I think of the heart of the people, the love of the people, the Sudanese culture. And I believe, and I still believe, that if you take a longer term view, not in the near future, but in the long view, eventually Sudan will prevail peacefully and will one day transition and become a shining beacon, as it has been in the past, of an intellectual stronghold, a center for medicine and science, the study of history, the study of language and culture. the way that I saw the trade unions and the lawyers and the doctors and the students, the men and the women, the young people, the old people, people of different faiths and of no faith coming together and organizing street by street, the successes of the resistance committees were really remarkable in the face of quite an oppressive surveillance regime, dictatorship, and guns and right in their faces. But they were persevering in the way that Gandhi did, in the way that Martin Luther King Jr. did. They were really waging a battle where their weapons were weapons of the heart, of love, of courage. And I told the Sudanese people more than one occasion that all the other side has is their guns and bullets, but they don't have enough bullets to shoot everyone. And I remember that the Irish used to have a saying when they were battling the British Empire. The oppressors always will have more lawyers, guns, and money. But the Irish said, we will prevail eventually, and they did. And they said, the other side has more guns and bullets, but we have better songs. The Irish are famous for their ballads, their storytelling songs. And eventually they did prevail and peacefully kicked out the British. And they're now, a shining economic, they're one of the brightest, economies in Europe. And I believe that I can see that sort of future eventually for Sudan. I believe in the courage and resilience and adaptability, the collectivist thinking, the organizational abilities of the Sudanese people will prevail. I think we need to continue to speak truth to power, to hold the United States government accountable, the United Arab Emirates who are backing the RSF, but also hold the Sudanese armed forces accountable for their war crimes. They're not as bad as the RSF, but they have also committed war crimes, and it is their fault for failing to step aside and let the people lead Sudan. That's the only possible solution.
Hi, I don't know a lot about Sudan. Matter of fact, I know next to nothing except Charlton Heston in Khartoum. I think it was a movie, and he gets it with a spear in the end. And I think there's dervishes or some such. So what I'm hearing from you is you were in Khartoum and there was a 5-star hotel and this and that, and meeting with the other intelligentsia from around the world, and you're telling the State Department. I'd really just like to know, Mother Africa is a slaughterhouse, all right? And I'd like to know the history. Imperialism from the European countries, whatever you want to call it, and it's still playing out today, right? We know it's got natural resources that make these people wealthy beyond belief, to feed themselves and conquer disease or whatever the heck. But I'd like to live, and what it seems to me is the language is Arabic, or not the language necessarily, but the writing. So I'd like to know a little bit more about their religion and what peoples make this up, what their history is in the last 50 years, how did they get here? You're talking about these different groups, I don't know, and I think this is a problem throughout Africa, not just in Sudan. So maybe if you could even give a little bit broader, but if you just focus on Sudan, I'd be happy. Let's get beyond Charlton Heston.
Yeah, well, so I think that one of the best ways that the Sudanese people can prevail is by showing the world their culture. And if you really want to get to know the real Sudan beyond what's in the headlines or, God forbid, the movies, then, it's about reading the Sudanese poets and, hosting art shows. Sudan has a rich culture of, artists, graphic artists, cartoonists, painters, poets, musicians, rappers, classical musicians, and filmmakers. And so go to the Sudanese restaurants, eat their food, sit down with a meal, break bread with them, and get to know those Sudanese artists and, learn how they organize at the street level. Because they organized, block by block and, out of houses, local resistance committees to fight effectively a fascist regime that was, tilting toward theocracy, conservative Muslim theocracy, whereas not everyone is necessarily, a conservative Muslim or a Muslim in Sudan. They have Christians, they have animists, they have many different religions and people of no religion. And so one of the things that I was saying is that they needed to stand firm on being a secular state, not a theocratic state, and they were showing also great progress in welcoming young people. Some of the old people were beginning, with some reluctance, but they were beginning to step aside, let new blood come in, let the young people, mentor them, let them begin to take the reins of power. And in particular, part of the success of the movement was that they were making room for young women. More than half of the people marching in the streets, peacefully protesting the regime, were young women. And so there was a lot of strong organizing that was campus-based among the students, and they were successfully reaching out and building coalitions with some of the older labor union organizers in places like, Atbara. And at one point, a freedom train of labor union organizers came from Atbara, and they coalesced very well with professional, like the Sudanese Bar Association, the attorneys, the Sudanese physicians and nurses. The students got together, secularists, artists got together, people doing, graffiti on the streets, and cartoonists and graphic artists. They had musicians, rappers making videos, feeding the people's soul. They had people literally feeding people. There were people making bread to hand out and feed people who were coming in from other cities, from other regions into Khartoum to march peacefully in the face of gunfire, insisting on their rights and their dignity. And it was just so uplifting because at no point would the people resort to violence. They were committed to peaceful, nonviolent resistance, very much in the tradition of Gandhi or Frederick Douglass, in the U.S. said, power concedes nothing without a fight. And so you have to struggle, but you can't harvest the fruits of the field without first busting up the ground and plowing the ground and planting it. So that's what they were doing. They were in the process of really winning the struggle. One area that they had some difficulty though, and I cautioned them, I said, the regime will exploit any fissures and divisions and try to make wedges amongst you. They will try to separate Christians and Muslims. Don't let them do that. They will try to separate young and old. They will separate men and women. They will separate, day laborers from professionals. Don't let them separate you by class or anything else. And I said, but there's another thing that there's a lot of debate. Are the Sudanese ready to hear this? But I said, there is a part of it, if you can see that you need to have a big tent theory of organizing. The more you are accepting the gorgeous mosaic of all the different cultures and flavors of Sudan, the more you will be winning. The more the regime exploits divisions amongst you, the more you will be losing. And one of the areas in Sudan that they were reluctant to pursue, but I cautioned them, you need to recognize that there are gay people and lesbians in Sudan. They are amongst you. They are some of your current leaders. And if you think that you don't know any gay people or lesbians in Sudan, you do. It's just that they don't feel safe and confident enough to let you know about their full identity. But they are here, and some of them asked me to speak to you and to bring you that message. And so I did. Some people cautioned me and said, the Sudanese culture is very conservative. We're not ready to hear about equality and gay rights. We're not ready for that. And I said, I'm sorry, but since when are God's people not ready for truth? You are ready for this, and if you can pull together and accept all parts and people of Sudan, you can win this struggle. If you let hate draw divisions between you, you will lose. And so, unfortunately, that was a bridge too far for some people. It was a division that was exploited, and eventually, there have been other fissures and cracks that have widened under the pressures of famine and war and disease, and none of it has been helped by the cowardice of the United States government, the colonial policies of Russia and China, the US, and Europe toward Sudan, and basically the rapaciousness of the UAE regime in fueling the terrorists RSF who are just ravaging the country like locusts.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hudson. We really appreciate it. You not just but you gave us a comprehensive overview of what's going on in Sudan and the power and resilience of people. And this is why we're here this evening, is to embody that by celebrating culture and celebrating resilience. So we want to thank you so much. So we would like to give you a warm applause. Again, thank you so much for coming today to celebrate resilience of Sudanese people and stand in solidarity with the Sudanese struggle for freedom, peace, and justice. I really want to give a very heartfelt thanks to the Monterey Palestine Solidarity and the Monterey Peace and Justice Center for supporting us with this event, and and the Peace Coalition of Monterey County. We thank you so much. Okay, so I mentioned earlier that I am part of an ever-growing community of diverse Sudanese people in Monterey. As Mr. Hudson stated, that we have a lot of not just like natural resources, but we also have cultural resources and a huge cultural capital and a huge diversity. So this image embodies the diversity of Sudan. And in case you don't have an idea of where Sudan is located, this is kind of a map that shows where it is in the neighboring countries. And so I will leave you with a brief video that celebrates culture, that celebrates who we are as people. photo is very significant because it was taken, is a compilation of clips and images from over 50 locations in Sudan, and it goes to show you how diverse the country of Sudan is. But and it was part of a celebration was part of a conference to celebrate the transitional government, which unfortunately didn't happen. Okay, so we are, yeah. Sorry, I always get moved when I see images from Sudan, so I apologize. So I'll give you a little bit of an introduction, again, just to recap what Mr. Hudson was talking about earlier. This is the train that came from Atbara to join the peaceful marches in Sudan back in 2018 when the revolution started to happen. And the cartoons below basically show you what the whole point of this war is to snuff out the lights of any peaceful transitional democratic government from taking part in, of being part of Sudanese people's lives. The war on April 15th broke out between Sudanese armed forces and the Rapid Support Forces, of course, 4 years after the Sudanese People's Revolution of December 2018, after we have ousted a 30-year dictator. The revolutionary uprising was a political shift that promised hope for the civilian-led sovereignty, hopes that actually started to grow dimmer after the partnership and the failed negotiations that ended up having military in the structure of the government. So currently, we're witnessing very difficult times because of not just the bullets and the devastation and the damage that's happening, but we're also having quite a volatile social context. In addition to the regional and global power dynamics that underpin this war and the multidimensionality of it, we're basically witnessing so many polarizations across ethnic tribal lines, religious, and even class. So when these highly volatile narratives start to shape the course of the war, that's when you start to lean towards the power of the people and their resilience. So these images show the Sudan war impact and the human cost. Just the last numbers I have is that there are more than 500,000 deaths and fatalities, with 12 million internally displaced, 2.3 million fleeing to neighboring countries, with 25 million in need of humanitarian assistance, which is actually challenging to do considering the fact that the new administration has cut off U.S. aid funding, and a lot of U.S. aid funding actually goes to support emergency room responses. So it's absolutely critical and essential that resources and diaspora philanthropies mobilize to support Sudan and provide humanitarian assistance. I wanted to share with you a story of displacement from a dear friend of mine who had to flee Sudan, who had to basically become internally displaced first and then externally displaced. And so one of the quotes from the story that he shared is that the fact that nobody knows how long this war will continue makes this fact very serious. For now, Sudanese IDPs remain forgotten and left to suffer from disease, hunger, and heightened insecurity as the war rages on. The Sudanese people continue to face an uncertain fate alone. At the upper right-hand corner is a stamp that, if you are lucky and quote-unquote have the right passport, you would get that stamp if you are part of the evacuations that foreign governments have organized for their constituents in Port Sudan. Compare it to the difficult and perilous journey that people have to undergo and have to go through to reach safety. Earlier, Mr. Hudson pointed out the emergency response rooms, which are local support networks that are purely community-led by a network of volunteers. They are literally the lifeline of Sudanese people. And so they have been nominated for a Nobel Prize last year, and this nomination is a huge deal because it brings about a lot of attention and visibility to the Sudanese people. There is a quote by one of my favorite professors, the late Jan Nippers Black, and this quote is from her most recent book. The quote says, "Ordinary people are rarely ordinary," and you will see why.
Emergency response rooms who have been doing this work existed way before this war. Groups of volunteers from diverse backgrounds, all united by their desire for change and vision for a new Sudan. So their transformation into the emergency response rooms, it wasn't just heroic, it was immediate. Think Voltron. If you grew up in the 80s and 90s. If you didn't, they are that emergency response. One that stood firm when so many other organizations packed up and left.
So the next two videos show you part of the work that an initiative called Nas Shagala, which literally translates to people at work. So the first video shows you the community kitchens, or takaya as we call them, in the Oyderman locality.
Sawahul, Sawalanos, Sudan, أنا عمار كنت تاجر في سوق درمان قبل الحرب. بعد ذاك بقيت متطوع في المطابخ الشعبية أو التكاية زي ما بنقول. درمان دي زي كل المدن فيها حرب. الناس عايشة أوضاع صعبة. فياهو تكية هنا تكية هناك. الناس بتمرق اللي عندها بتشتغل يومي. أكبر تحدي علينا في رمضان لأنه زمن الإفطار واحد. طبعا المشاكل كثيرة لكن الناس بتتشايف. النار واحدة من المشاكل دي. طبعا ما في غاز ما في فحم أو حتى لو في بيكلف معك. الناس اللي قطع الحطب كده كده الشجر ده بموت عشان ما في مويه. الحرب دي دخلت الناس في ظروف صعبة جدا. مصادر الدخل شبه وقفت. الناس كانت بتعاني جدا يعني في انها كيف تتحصل على لقمة العيش.
والله قاعدين شباب في التشييع ده يعني بدينا الحكايه بتاعت ونس كده كلنا نتجمع ودقينا شيء من الشباب بدينا بصور واحد بتاع قليله كلهم الناس الجو كلهم 3 أنفار ثاني يوم بقوا 5 ثالث يوم زادوا لحد ما حسنا ما شاء الله 500 ل 600 أسرة. ولا البتاع
يعني طلعت المويه دي كانت مشكلة كبيرة جدا. الناس بتجيبها من آخر الدنيا. لكن في النهاية الناس بتتصرف
يعني في ناس متعقدين لحد الآن ناس نقول لك يا حرب ده بربنا نيجي نسيب لنا معون نيجي فينا عشان ما أحسن عملنا الشغل. إحنا قالنا لبيوتنا ده بنشيل من التكييف.
هل بصل؟ خلاص تمام. هسي حاليا في شواط بتاع بصل في البيت، امشي ارفعه وديه هناك ثاني انا صار حاجه. ما صعب والله يشوف كعب انا وحشي صعبين. الانترنت والاتصالات عموما مشكله. اللي عملوا لي لسه بتمشي تقريبا قريب ليشن هناك ممكن تعمل اتصالات وتيجي رايح. أنا طالع عليك من فترة زي ما كان جدا في شغل القوي ده ومنتهي شديد.
العمل الطبيعي ده شرعت فيه بدري يعني بسنين طويلة جدا يعني بيساعد مثلا الضعيفة والأراضي واليتامى وحتى أصحاب الاحتياجات الخاصة اللي هو ناس لقيت منهم الحمد لله رب العالمين يعني الحمد لله. أنا اتضربت في نفس شارع بيتنا ده يعني لو كنا بنخاف من الاجتماعات كنا بنخاف من البيت ده مضروب والتاني ده تلقاه مضروب ضربة في الصالون بورقة فتحته فتحة كبيرة ومسحين الكاتب وبلاغة ولا الأمس هذا البيت ما بيشيل. شايف العوارة دي؟ دي كله روايش في البيت. كلها روايش. سبحان الله شوف الشيلة بالكوبا والتوب يقول عن الدار هنا عندنا ناس بيقعدوا يلعبوا كوتشينة هنا غير ما في شيء. وفي الحقيقة قالوا شاكر ومتفصلوا. الدار جات وضعت. سبحان الله. بين قاموس الجديد بهناك وقع فيه وتمشي تلقاه مكسر متهم كله في البيت قاعد وقع فيه. دارات كثيرة عندنا زي 6 دارات وقع في البلاد المرارة باللحظة ديك وقع في الدار الخامسة اللي ما صار الدار في يومين وعملت لي حاجة كان يوم صعب جدا بس الحمد لله يعني ما في زول إصابة غير إصابة كبيرة باقي كلها إصابات كانت خفيفة.
والله أضعف حاجة إنه زول يجي ويلقى لك أنت جد في أضعف حاجة. فهمت أنا يعني تكلمت مع دلة على أساس إنه يقوموا يجيبوا العيش بدري والناس يوزعوا عليها قبل الصلاة وكده، لكن بتحصل ظروف أنت خارج عن إرادتك. العربية ضلت كانت بتعطل المفروض تمشي تجيب العيش لحد ما الناس صلوا حتى نتوزع كانت مراكز كثيرة توزع بعد الصلاة. فتخيل إنه يعني وضع الناس زي الجيل يعني في يعني بيدعاني زول زي ده كده يعني قاعد بينتظر المسافة دي كلها ولا هي قطعة صعب ولا ما صعب؟
أنا ستيبل حتى ما في كلام زي يقول يعني
بعد الحين واقف شغالين أصلا لك الاجتماع كمان بيه الفوائد النص النازل ده أقعد في الحياة الجنوبية ما أقعد في الحياة الشمالية. الناس لسه اشتباك كلهم بيجروا تحت الحيطة الاشتباك كانوا بيجوا يوزعوا كده.
طيب الروز عندكم منه صح؟ فاضي لا في روز فاضي هيعمل لكم كم يوم صح؟
تقريبا زي 4 شوالات 3 شوالات عملنا من ده فضل 3 شوالات
كويس. لحد رمضان كده؟
إن شاء الله لحد هذا والله.
شوال الفول بس كده؟
لحد بعد رمضان إن شاء الله المواد بتوفر.
خلاص شوال الفول بتوفر. الله يسلمك. بعرف معظم ناس السوق هنا نمشي نجيب الاحتياجات. الناس بتتعاون وتصبر على بعض.
نعمل جزء كده.
هاي نعمل صراحة جاي رايح بيجيبوا رايح انت ما انت قاعد معنا صح؟ ده حاجات بس نزيله بين طوال عايز تعمل ده هناك بيجي اسوق الفواني قاعد جاهز ها؟
والله يا عمار ربنا يدي العافية جلد البابين وسأل يا جماعة الشبكة قال هاي انتوا ماشيين كيف؟ ثاني يوم طوال جاتنا شوالين فول كمية من العدس كمية من الرز يعني موادنا كلها توفرت والله.
السودان الشعب السوداني لا يستحق ان يستطاع حقيقه والله يعني جد شعبي يعني شفناه شفنا كميه التكاتف والاجتماع شفناه في الحرب وفي رمضان يعني شيء ما حصل، ناس فاتحه بيوتهم واكل وشراب يعني انت في السودان ده انك تكون محاصر في حته حتى الجوع او زول ما قادر يصلي، لكن طالما انت وسط الناس ما بيديك عمل الحمد لله رب العالمين. الغريب معروف عندهم عمل الخير يعني بيحبوا يتكافلوا وبيحبوا يساعدوا الناس يعني، وان شاء الله يعني بعد العيد الله صيد على نروح بيوت سالم معانا وربنا ينهي الحرب باذن الله تعالى ان شاء الله ربنا يسير ان شاء الله.
دور الزول يتذكر ويشغل بالنفس يشوف لهم حياة الباقي قدام حياته.
مع الدنيا قبائل العيد دي نتمنى انه الوضع يرجع طبيعي.
حاجة هذا 5
والله يوم احنا العيد زاد ان شاء الله شغالين، لانه يوم العيد زاد الناس بتكون هنا محتاجة، يوم العيد زاد لقينا ما حتقف. يوم الجمعة عندنا برنامج بتاع عروس بنغير الناس يعني من الجو بتاعهم، لازم يكون في تحلية.
ما عرفت ولا ما عرفت؟ قالوا عروسة دكتور يعني؟ لا إله إلا الله الله كل سنة وانتم طيبين، والسنة الجاية في بيوتنا عاملين مستقرين وأمورنا طيبة. نتمنى معنا الناس دي تجيب، لكن روح التعاون دي ما تجيب عشان نصلح البلد دي وتمشي لقدام.
We have speakers, Ms. Naam Fad and Mr. Al-Sadiq Ismaili. They're the founders and directors of the Sudan Forum for Agriculture and Food Security. Also, we have tonight with us Esther Sprague, who's the founder and director of Sudan Unlimited. The Sudan Forum for Agriculture and Food Security. We are very thankful that they exist, and we are very happy that organizations that engage the diaspora communities here in not just in Monterey, but nationally across different states, they work directly with the emergency room response and community kitchens. So I'm going to hand it over to Inam and Al-Sadiq to talk about their work with the community kitchens in Sudan.
So the idea, as Anab mentioned, is how to bring the people in diaspora, Sudanese people around the world, not just in the USA, here to help on this effort. So from day one, Dr. Ilham Saad and her colleagues, because they concern about the agriculture and food security there, so they form this organization to try to help in be sure that the food gonna be available for everybody, because that's the first effect of war. So they form Sudan platform of agriculture and food security, and they start to work on fields there to save the season there, to help the farmers there to do their farming, so that we show that there is a food there. For us here, so those guys, as you see now, they form those community kitchens, which we call them takaya. And here we try, people, they start help around the world in Sudanese diaspora. And we found that this is the only things with, during this war, that people, they agree on. All Sudanese, they agree that they have people there, those there people, and they need help, and urgent help, before even the international community start to move on everything. So we start from here. Since we agree on that, so we can bring even the whole community together during this divide time. Because also people, they have different view of war, and maybe they back sides or something like that, but we don't back. We back our citizens, our people, that's they in need. And as Anna mentioned, that the numbers is, you know, that we can see the number. The last one we put it there. Those the last updated, I think it came on last December with USA. And they say that now there is like 30 million. That's like 70% now in need. So in this case, what you're gonna do, bring the people together. So we start working, a lot of type of working. So first of all, donation, normal donation. Second, we try to sell things in bazaar, in any event, and collect the money. Third, we start to mobilize all the people around, all Sudanese people here and communities, and we try to tell them that's what happens there, and we need to raise money and raise awareness. And maybe that's what we brought us to Catherine first. Even here in Monterey, we try to let people know what's happened there. So with our partnership with them, with Monterey Peace and Justice Center, we make one event. And I wanna just introduce this video because it's significant. Because while we're preaching about that and all things, some of the Sudanese singers, actually they came early, and most of them, they asked for asylum in the area of Washington, D.C. and Virginia. So they call, one of the Sudanese singers, Amara Noor, she said she can help an event there for just to raise money. So I went there and I met people there. And so after that, those people, they call us what we can do more. So we came with this idea, which is the idea of Dr. Enam, is why we can make our own tequila here. So the people, they came and eat the same food as now you just watch it, as people they do. And with the same process, even they stay in the line and take that food and pay, and then they open for donation, and it's one of very successful event, even for them, because they said even we are divided, we all came together at that event, and in just 3 hours they raised $60,000. In just 3 hours, and all that things is just one thing, is the same meal, lentils, the same meal, and people they all of them, they stand in the line and they eat that, and they pay $10 for that one, and then they open the pledge, for the donation. And they, all of them, what they said to me after that, they feel that's the first time from when this war broke up, they came together, regardless of their differences, regardless of their anything, just they came to help the people. And I wanna leave you with the video of events, some like 6 minutes from that event. Thank you. And this is before we start, this is Amal Al-Noor. This is the one that he invited us and arranged the first one of bring the singers lives there to make like a singing night and the people, and then from this where they came the idea to make this event. Thank you.
يلا نرجع لبلدنا، يلا نرجع بالسلامة، عودة حميدا بالسلامة. نلاقي أحبابنا وأهلنا بمحننا وشوق سلامة. تذرف دمعات سكينة ونحضر أطفالنا اليتامى. نلاقي أحبابنا وأهلنا بمحلنا وشوق سلام. تذرف دمعات سكينة ونحضر أطفالنا اليتامى. نسكت أصوات البنادق ونمسح حزان الغلابة.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله الأمين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ومن سار على نهجه واستنى بسنته إلى يوم الجمع والبعث والدين، ثم أما بعد. This is such a beautiful gathering. Salah, I've been in Virginia for the last I think 12 years, and I've never seen a crowd this large in a non-Eid event. I usually go to the Eid khutbahs in the park every year and I give the khutbah, but this is mashallah a very large crowd to have in a non-Eid khutbah. الحاجة الثانية إنه الأستاذة هانم طيبة وبسيطة جدا جدا، من قبل تسأل فيه 15 و $20. أنا ما حصل في إيفنت سألت في مبلغ زي ده صراحة. الحمد لله الجمعة اللي فاتت كنا في لوس أنجلوس. أنا بمشي بعمل فاندريزز كل جمعة في مساجد مختلفة حول أمريكا للسودان. الجمعة اللي فاتت الحمد لله جمعنا $250,000 في لوس أنجلوس الحمد لله للسودان في خطبة واحدة. فإن شاء الله تعالى اليوم we don't have to reach 250 لكن we can reach 150 إن شاء الله. لأنه simply العدد ده أنا برضه للمنظور من الناحية بتاعت إنه there is about 300 people here. And I'm almost certain that each and every one of us can give $1,000. But before we get there,
عرفوا والله اسمعوا المبلغ اللي انجمع من $10 فرق. رقم بسيط جدا جدا. $10 جمعت الآتي 9,930. خليناها ل10,000 10,500 وبكده الله أكبر كده فاتت 10 وشوية وده غير حق المدار وده غير حق الكتب وده غير حق الجايات من جايلي وطبعا الناس كلها بين انطبعت وكانت موجودة والناس عارفة أسماء لكن في زول أظنه غياب مرسل والله أنا ما عارفاه التقول علينا ما كان قبلت بقول اسمك الزول القاعد يدعم السودان وبيدعم جاليته وبيدعم مدرسته وبيدعم ناسه والضعفاء منهم اخونا الراكز جدا جدا والرايح لمالي ميزون هدي اخونا متوكل بشير $2,000 بالدم كده نكون كتبتكم ما قصرتم.
Okay, that's it for the people that they don't know Arabic is just that's some of the event. The first guy, he's crying, he's a poet, and he just very emotional about the other one, the whole things. And the last event that she mentioned that they just collect like 10,000 from the people that they pay for the meal. And then when she started to say, she said that we collect like 9,000 something. So the people, they said, no, we insist to make it 10,000, and then the people, they are start. The other guy, he actually the one that's serious. He has his own charity, and he asks them, as you said, he speaks most of the time in English. It's very good. But that's the one he is. He insists that people, they have to pay more, and that's why. Because when they get out, like at that hour exactly, he the last speaker, they get 40,000, and by the end, when he talk, they add 20,000 immediately. For that's one of the community, by the way, just in Washington D.C. and the area. So here we talk in Sudan, diaspora, like in America, we have a lot in the area. Here in the Bay Area, we have maybe the same thing in Texas, wherever, any state. I believe that's we find some Sudanese community, but that's one thing we do for our community and to help our people back there and to raise awareness about what's going in Sudan. Thank you.
I just want to make an announcement about donations. If you want to donate to the Sudanese who's here tonight and help the cause, you can go to the Monterey Peace and Justice website. It's peacecentral.org. And then here, you see, we've got a donate button. Just click on the donate button, and let's see. $100. I'm going to show you how to donate with a credit card. And then here you can add a special instruction, and here you could just put in the word Sudan. And then make your donation with your credit card, and then donate. It's that easy. And all of the money, 100% of the money here, except for what PayPal, but it will all go to Muhammad and organizers for advocacy and to humanitarian aid and the people who are dealing with the crisis. So please be generous. Again, you can go to peacecentral.org and make your donation. Just click on this donate button. That's through PayPal, but it allows you to make a credit card donation. And thank you for all of you who donated on Eventbrite, on our website, the event website. We brought in a little bit of money there, and that's really nice. I really appreciate it.
So coming up next in our program, Mr. Sprague is the founder and director of Sudan Unlimited, which is an organization dedicated to supporting Sudanese and South Sudanese working tirelessly to secure freedom, peace, and justice for their countries. Esther was introduced to Sudan in 2003 by Namer Kouer Ajak, one of the lost boys of Sudan, who was concerned about the atrocities in Darfur as they mirrored what he had experienced as a child. In addition to Sudan Unlimited, Esther co-founded Act for Sudan and South Sudan Women United, and she is the Senior Director of Administration and Finance at USF School of Law. Give it up for Esther.
Thank you very much. It's nice to see you. I think I've met a lot of you already last time I was here, and it was really a wonderful event. Thank you for inviting me back. I thought this time I might show you the website that I've been working on just as a resource. You know, we've heard different ways that Sudanese are supporting their communities. Sudanese back home in Sudan are doing the work that the international community typically does, because the international community can't get into Sudan. So Sudanese that are finding ways to feed each other and to get medical assistance and just a variety of services. It's just really remarkable. And then here in the diaspora, so many Sudanese are raising money to send back home to be able to do that work. So I guess the question is, how can we all help? I would encourage everybody to give. It was just shared how to give tonight, and that money will go back to Sudan and it will help. And it's very important. Another thing we can do is to advocate. And in that regard, letting our elected officials know that we care about Sudan. We want them to take action that supports the Sudanese people. So I meet every week, at least once a week, with people around the country who care about Sudan. A lot of Sudanese, but also organizations like Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, Refugees International, Crisis Action. There are weekly meetings where people are talking about what can we do to help. And so on occasion I'll be invited to go somewhere to speak, and a year ago, I guess it's been 2 years ago now, I was invited to go and speak in Pittsburgh. And I put together my notes, and I was like, okay, now I need to tell them to take this action that Refugees International has put out. And then I need to tell them about this action that Amnesty International is encouraging people to take. And then it just occurred to me in the plane that maybe I could consolidate what people are doing, so there's kind of one place to go. And this is really what I can glean, and I have a regular full-time job, and there's so much more going on, but this is my effort to try to consolidate all the different actions and information that's coming out about Sudan. Again, this is just a portion of it. I'm not claiming to have it all, and I would encourage you, again, I'm not a website designer or anything like that. So if you have recommendations, or if you have information you'd want me to include, just let me know. There's a contact button up there. So I thought maybe what I would do is walk through this a little bit with you, and you could see what's available. The first section is about us, and it just gives some information about the organization. I started it about 20 years ago. And then under Take Action, this is a photo from one of the rallies here actually in the Bay Area. But this first section, there's a quote there, but what's helpful to know is whenever you're on social media, it's great to share things on social media. There are some hashtags that people are using. We've seen one tonight, which is Keep Eyes on Sudan. There's Speak Out on Sudan, Sudan Needs You, Stand with Sudan. So there's a variety of hashtags that you want to use when you're posting something on Sudan. It helps create buzz and interest, as we know how hashtags work. And then I've listed targets in U.S. Congress that you might want to reach out to. I need to update this, I have to say, but always reach out to your members of Congress. They take action because their constituents are interested. So always reach out to your members of Congress. But these are some others that are the head of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee or the House Foreign Affairs Committee. And then what I do is, as I hear of actions, I'll post them here. So for example, recently the Sudan Armed Forces targeted South Sudanese who were in Sudan. And so there was a petition asking for an investigation into that by the international fact-finding mission for Sudan. Another action was instigated by Win Without War, asking Congress to block arms sales to the United Arab Emirates, which is arming and supporting the Rapid Support Forces. And so it just goes down, kind of down the page, and there's just a variety of ways that you can take action. So, if there's things that if you have a petition or anything like that, I'm really happy to include it here. Another page is this events and analysis. And so what I've done here, I've included this quote from the Undersecretary General at the UN Security Council, and this has been quoted I don't know how many times, basically saying that that the actions of external actors are illegal, and it's immoral, and it must stop. It is the external actors that really fuel this conflict. So if you go down the page, what I've done is I've listed organizations that are very active, where you can click on those links and it takes you to their website. Peace of Sudan is listed here, and a variety of organizations that are pretty current, pretty active. And then what I've done is I've just listed things chronologically. So for example, today is February 1st. So you'll see there's an event in Marina, California, Sudan Solidarity event. And there's events later this month in Washington and Virginia and Alberta, Canada. But if you go down further, there's a report by the Norwegian Refugee Council. There is a report just came out just yesterday by the Small Arms Survey. It's a portrait of the Rapid Support Forces at war. There's just a number of organizations that are really paying attention to Sudan. So this attempts to capture kind of what's going on. When the UN Security Council had a briefing by the International Criminal Court prosecutor, I listed that, and you can click on that. It takes you to a video. I listened to that video on my trip today from San Francisco to here, and it's something else. But you can hear what's going on. And then also I'll include statements about that. When the United States declared genocide just recently in Darfur and in Sudan, I listed that down here further, and I also included links to comments by members of Congress who tweeted about it, for example. So it's just really, hopefully, a resource that's useful. Anybody who's studying Sudan, I think it's useful. Anybody who wants to keep up on what's going on. Anybody who wants to see that there are people paying attention when it feels like it's really being ignored, it might be encouraging. And again, if you have things that you want me to post, typically I'll do that. I don't post anything that supports either party of the conflict, of course. And then back in November of not last year, but 2023, I just felt like everybody was kind of trying to figure out what to do. So I conducted a survey and asked organizations, what should be our strategy as far as advocacy, and put this together, basically compiled the results. And our vision is the vision of the Sudanese people, which is freedom, peace, and justice for Sudan. These were the top 5 goals you can see there. End the war, protect civilians and human rights defenders, provide emergency humanitarian aid, support genuine democratic transition, and justice and accountability. And then those goals were broken out into action. Again, all this is just pulled from the survey. And then what I've tried to do, and this is not complete by any means, because there's just not enough time in the day, but when things that have happened that meet those goals or where the action is taken, I've tried to include that. For example, one of the actions was to appoint special envoys. So I've tried to list all the different times a special envoy was appointed, whether it's in the U.S. or the African Union, at the UN. And another place is one thing that's called for quite often are sanctions, targeted sanctions against the RSF and SAF. And so I've tried to list those here as sanctions have come out from the State Department, the European Union, and the United Nations. I've tried to list those here, and I've tried to list the names of the people and the entities that are being sanctioned. So hopefully this can be a resource. Again, if you see something where you're like, you're missing this, then please feel free to let me know. Or if you see this and you say, hey, there's a much better way to do this, or do this in addition, I'm really open to suggestions. This resource is just for your information if you happen to go around this. A very long time ago, we had an event on the mall where people set up tents to sort of replicate the tents that you might find in a refugee camp. And I created this. It was a list, and it's a list really under construction, and it's not up to date. But it's just a list of organizations that care about Sudan in alphabetical order. And again, not updated, but it will be someday. Different films, books, and then there's another section that organizes all the information by category. So if it's humanitarian aid or that sort of thing. Of course, I need to update this. If you've got free time and you want to volunteer, just let me know. But anyway, I just thought maybe I would share this with you as a resource. And I also just want to say that April 15th, which will be the anniversary of when the war started, there's likely to be a rally or something in Washington, D.C. So if you can attend, put that on your calendar. It's really important for people to show up. It shows our elected officials that Sudan matters, and they should pay attention and help as much as they can. And then I just also want to mention, lastly, that it is overwhelming. I'm sure, I can't imagine how it must be for the Sudanese in the room to be so far from home and to be seeing the devastation to their country and to their family and friends. And it can feel very isolating, and we don't see a lot of progress. And we see a lot of concerns around the entire world, including the United States. But we have to keep going. I liked that quote at the end of one of those videos where it said something about no matter what happens, this is talking about the kitchens, no matter what happens, we're still here. And we're going to keep going. And we're going to keep feeding people. And we're going to keep advocating. And the thing that I always remind people is if you don't advocate, if you don't speak out, then there's just silence. And so let's not be silent. Let's speak out for the people of Sudan. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Esther, for the valuable resources and the website that you've provided. So as we reach the end of our program today, I want to thank you all for coming in and showing solidarity. We look forward for more engagements with the community and with the different diaspora groups. And so what you can do to help, I know I was approached by so many wonderful folks who expressed interest in helping. I would say the first thing is, like Esther said, not be silent, raising awareness, making noise, and just continuing to advocate. Talking to Congress, to our Congress representatives, just pushing the levers, right? And making sure that you support the diaspora communities, always mobilizing resources and people to support the community kitchens and local led initiatives. Like I mentioned earlier, the local response rooms are actually in danger of stopping everything because of the recent cuts. By the recent U.S. aid cuts actually put them under threat of not reaching the people that they need to reach. They're literally the lifeline of the Sudanese people that are still under the blows of this war. Another thing, like Esther meant, go to her website. It has all the resources that you can possibly find, compilation of analyses, being aware, raising awareness, and just individually and collectively working together towards supporting the people of Sudan. Yeah, this is the website, sudanunlimited.com. And listen to the stories of people. Listen to the stories of people. Amplify their voices. Thank you so much. And to conclude this evening on somewhat of a lighter note, I leave you with two pieces of music from Sudan. I'm sorry I didn't translate them, but I really hope that I can convey at least some of the messaging. This piece of Ya Leila is actually rooted in Sufi tradition. I'm not sure if you remember, but across different clips, you might have seen the Sufi traditions come alive, the acts of devotion. And so people in Sudan are inherently Sufis, and basically they are people of love and compassion. And so this piece is actually rooted in, it comes from a Sufi poem about staying up late at night and performing acts of devotion and worship. So I'll leave you with that first, and then we'll move on to the second piece, which is a traditional piece from Kordofan, Western Sudan. It talks about the values of chivalry and courage, but also ultimately sticking out for one another. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
program together, bring us all together.
هي بتاعت المنظومة الفيل هي